Okay, going live here on YouTube. I am testing some setups for interview formats, so I am just kind of testing this out on YouTube to see how things are going. And so, if you're out there, if you could sort of send out like I'm not sure here. I need to test this here. There. I am just testing out certain things here about what I've got going here. Trying to line it up on my screen for when I do interviews down the road. So, uh, if you're out there and you'd like to play with me tonight, help me set things up. I'd appreciate it. That would let me know if I'm able to bring folks online with me fairly easily, how that's going to go and all that. My name's Victor. I guess I could put that up on the screen somehow, but it might come up later. Uh, I am testing out an Ecamm process here, trying to set up for being able to do consulting sessions, or actually sort of educational consulting sessions on live YouTube. Down the road, I actually have a Substack where I'm doing that now, but I haven't really set up to do an interview format live in case some people decided to join me. So that's sort of what I am in the process of doing at the moment. And there's some things I'd like to test, like I'd like to bring someone on live with me and then be able to make sure that my mics are set up right and my headsets are set up right. And when I bring you on board, you can hear me, I can hear you. There's not a lot of, I like to try to resolve those things in advance before I start really doing them live. So right now I have like the scene set up. I can take a look at the chat section here to see if, my little message came across. So I can chat doing this if somebody ever finds a way in to chat with me. So I'm going to give it a few minutes and hang around and just talk. Things are really hot in the world today, so I hope people aren't too stressed out. Things will resolve themselves. I am a pretty old guy, and I've been around a long time, so I've seen these situations before. They do resolve themselves. They do get better. Things are usually better for them also. So this is just one of those tests that if you hang in there and you do the right thing and just hang in there, things tend to work themselves out. It's a tough test for America. If you're from another country, you must be looking at us going, what the hell is going on over there? And you would be right. What the hell is going on? But again, we have in the vast majority of Americans have the heart that is going to support doing the right thing, which was to sustain the democracy and restrict the amount of control and bias and bigotry that is being expressed out of our government heads right now. Well, not all of them, but some of them. Then we have a lot of things, I hope, when this is over, that we don't just try to go back and do business as usual. I hope there is the foresight to do what we used to call in the military an after action report. I was in special forces, so you go on a mission, you come back, an after action report and debrief, and you talk about all the things that went right and all the things that went wrong that you didn't anticipate, why you didn't anticipate them, those kinds of things, and try to talk about what you can do to change to make it better next time. So we're going to get that done. You can count on it. I think we'll be okay in the world. It could be some of the other world, the more dictatorial and fascist-oriented world may even learn a few things that the people in those countries may learn a few things they need to do to try to reestablish who they are, what they're all about. So it is not easy, but it will resolve itself. It will resolve itself. Me, I am a retired consultant. I've been retired almost 20 years. But the last 5 or 6 years, maybe 7 now, going on this year, I've kind of, after about 15 years of traveling around and doing things I needed to do and wanted to do, and not everything, but most things, I really got interested. I used to be a leader in a company, and I used to deal within companies I worked for. I was in the human resource and training and organizational development groups, and so I spent a lot of time helping leaders solve problems with their employees solve problems with the company, and the company to change cultures if they needed to, or to do those kinds of things. And then so I did that for about 35 years. And then probably about another 15, I consulted in that area, helping companies out. And both great big billion-dollar companies that were international and domestic both, but I also did some mid-size and small companies. I even consulted with individuals about their leadership, the role of leadership. And so my degrees are in communication, interpersonal communication, organizational communication. I a master's in that and a bachelor's in interpersonal communication. And I probably have gotten about 3/4 of the way through my doctorate program, but that got to be too much of a drain. It was like I was trying to raise a family during that period of time, and consulting internationally is an extremely demanding job, and then trying to do a doctorate on top of that it wasn't working out. So something had to give. It wasn't going to be the family. It wasn't going to be the doctorate, although well, that wouldn't have worked out anyway. Good, but I was doing most of the work that when I came back and was getting my instruction talking about professors, they were telling me about some of this stuff, and I was out there actually doing it. I was on the front leading edge of a lot of development and design and thoughts in these areas out there in the real world with some significant companies with some significant dollar projects all over the world trying to make some things happen. And to some extent, I was, pretty successful in everything I did all through those 45, almost 50 years. Then I just kind of backed out of it. I felt the need to back out and just let somebody else try it, grab it, and run with it. I've developed quite a few leaders, and I know some of them have been very successful. I followed them, and I've worked with other business leaders that I've seen go and be very successful. And when you're in retirement, when you kind of miss that interaction you have of helping people grow. And so I thought, well, after 15 years of being out of it, it ought to really, with all the technology we had, should be really exciting to get back in and see where leadership is. And I was shocked. In fact, it hasn't grown much at all. And if we really look at the data, we've regressed. And if we look at what we're dealing with today in terms of the leadership in government and the way I've seen companies react to what the government pressures put on them, and some significant executives that I thought had their heads on their shoulders, I'm not sure now. I'm not sure about these people. I'm not sure about their leadership for sure. So, I mean, the people in the company have to be looking at them going, what the hell are you doing? But again, all of that is something that will work itself out. And the thing that I do have faith in is the vast majority of people in America. If I don't know what you see on TV in Europe or Asia or Africa or anywhere else, South America, Central America, but I do know what I've seen traveling this country and living in it and being around people all over the United States. I've been everywhere in the United States. The core value system for the vast majority of people are really excellent in the United States. I think the thing that we have slipped, if we've done anything, has been in the world of capitalism. I think we let that journey way too far in one direction. And consequently, we had some people who made significantly more money than the rest of us in the country, and consequently they gained a lot of power from that, and they then have taken that and used it probably in a way that's not the way we would like for them to do it. Not one of those things where you process kind of, the people in America all through the 70s, 80s, 90s were told, if you go ahead and supplement these companies and they grow, they will hire people and then they will pass their riches down. A couple of things. One, they didn't hire people. They farmed the jobs out to other countries like India and China and other places where the labor was cheap, and then they took the profits and put them in the pocket of the people who were running the companies or owned the companies. They did not pass that value, or they did, let me put it this way. They really didn't consider the value of the people who were making the money down there, who were doing all the work that delivered the products or services to the customers. So there were two groups of people that these executives didn't consider very valuable to them. One was the employees who did the work, and that includes leaders on down, everybody below the top levels in these organizations, what we would call the C-suite level. They didn't really put a lot of weight in the fact that those employees really got them the money that they have in their pockets. So they didn't proportionately, in my opinion, and I worked through a lot of different these companies over 50 years, I didn't see that going back down. In fact, I saw it less of it going down than when I first started, and it just kept becoming less and less proportionally. And that upper part of the organization kept growing more and more. And that's, of course, now what we see. We have our billionaires and maybe our first trillionaire and lots more billionaires. even though out of all the people that are out there, these are very few people that are that rich, they have as much net worth as all of the population, all the rest of us out there, just a few people. So we know what that financial spread is, and that we also know that didn't trickle down. And we also know that didn't trickle down from a lot of surveys that I did, and a bunch of other consultants did, and a bunch of other companies did, that basically said employees didn't feel valued because they weren't. They saw the money coming in, but didn't see it coming back to them in big percentages. So maybe an executive get like a 400 or 500% increase in their salary, and the employees were getting maybe 2 or 3% increase in their salary. That is disproportionate right there. So from the customer side, customers, I often ask when I go into a company and I first meet with a board or the executives or the owners of the company. They're sitting around a table, and I tell them take out a piece of paper and some pencil, and I said, I'm going to ask you one question. I'm going to give you about 25 seconds to write down an answer that comes to your mind, the first answer that comes to your mind after I tell you this, ask you this question. So I don't want you to take a lot of time. And what this exercise does is gets at your core of what you really think when you have to respond that quickly. You don't have time to juxtapose your thinking about what do you think I want you to say or anything like that. Or what are you thinking the other people are thinking? You have to just write it down quickly, 25 seconds, and you have to write something. So it's not like you cannot say, I'm not sure. No, I want you to write what you think as soon as I ask this question. So when I ask the question is, so why are you in this business? And that's it. Why are you in this business? Write it down. And that's interesting because when you go that fast, you put that kind of pressure on people. They pretty much go, like I said, to the core, to the truth, so to speak. And there's always one that says, I don't know, and I'm going. And I try to look at the crowd because from nonverbals you can kind of see who is going to try to get away with that. So I pick on them first normally, and I say, okay, Mr. So-and-so, what's your thoughts? And they go, I haven't really thought about it. I said, no, that's unacceptable. Write it down right now. So now you don't get to write it down. You just get to tell us what you think is the purpose of this company. Why are you in this business? And some of it is, we have expertise or we have talent, and we saw that a lot of the answers come back with, we have a need for this. There was a need. We saw the need. We had the expertise to provide it. So we thought this is a way for us to begin to start a business and it helps us make some money, but it's making money because people need it. So we're providing a service that they're willing to pay for, and that's working great. And then as we grow bigger, we have employees who come to work for us who get to deliver that service. We train them, they get to deliver that service, and we tend to grow and we bring in more money. And so that's how businesses start. They don't start by, there may, if somebody just came into the company, I have had this before. Somebody just came into the company and they're fairly new to the company, but the company's been in existence for a while. Maybe they're on the edge of wanting to go public and they were bringing a finance guy in or a marketing person or somebody like that. That person might actually be coming from a company whose current culture was our job is to improve the shareholder equity for the investors who have buying stock here. I am interested in making sure that they are satisfied and continue to fund that money, continue to buy that stock, or continue to hold the stock and don't sell it. If they sell it, that's bad. If they don't buy, that's bad. So it's a combination of that balance of trying to get them to continue to invest in the company by not selling and even adding more. And so what I found is a lot of companies start struggling with trouble between their employees. They begin to the culture began. It's healthy in the beginning, it's exciting. Everybody's benefiting. The employees don't perceive the leaders or the owners at that time. Probably they're not even leaders yet. They're just owners, and they're growing. And they're earning, they're taking a little more money, but you don't see them. The proportional difference is what they're earning and what the employees are getting out of it for what they do. The proportion seems okay. Employees are not unhappy with that. Everybody seems to be together. It's when we reach that scaling plateau where people are all of a sudden, it's not about satisfying that need that the customer has anymore. We may be dominating that need like Amazon. So it's a matter of trying to figure out, how do I make more money now to keep feeding this animal that's chewing up money? To get bigger, I need to get bigger. I can't just be happy where I am. And if somebody else comes in and joins us, they'll pick up. They'll take the slack. What we have left over, we're not handling. They could make a good living at as a small company. It's not like that, because if they start coming in and doing that, you go, oh man, then they may grow and want to take away my customers. So I better buy them up and bring them in-house. See, and that's how all of this starts. It's where the role definition of company changes at that scaling point, where we stop being focused on what that need was, that human need that we were satisfied, that the customer was happy, the employees were happy to deliver it, the people that own the company were happy to be able to provide it and to be able to provide employment for people. All those things were just humming along until it becomes all about the money. And then when you start getting investors and we start worrying about the investors and money versus the needs of the company, that's where we start scaling back or cutting back or laying off to meet the needs, to make that stock look more attractive to investors at the sacrifice of employees and the sacrifice of customers getting stuff. And you see that happen. I see it happen with Amazon. I see their delivery slipping, and you see they're engaged with people now that they didn't vet very well, and you have to send a lot of stuff back. And all of that was, I saw that eroding. I saw that eroding about the time that Amazon had gone public, and now they were this huge monster, and they were trying to build warehouses everywhere, as opposed to saying, hey, there may be another group of people who do a similar thing that we're doing, and let them in there and let them participate with us and grow a little too. It's the greed. It's the greed and the money. When you start focusing on the money and the greed, as opposed to the purpose. So if you get a person like that come in to a company that's fairly small and just beginning to grow and trying to do this work about who do we want to be and all that, if a new person comes in, it's almost always shareholder equity, shareholder value. That's what you got to partner because all the money is there, and you hear it right there. This is not about satisfying a need or being able to provide jobs in a community for people, and for both of those things to work together so that you benefit a little and have a little bit better life than you would normally have if you were just down there working on the shop floor. I mean, you're making good money. You're being able to get a bigger home and those kinds of things. But then keep it, making sure that those people that work for you have good health care, that they have good vacation plan, that they have child care available to them or something like that. That and so some of the money goes back into investing in your people so they stay with you for 30 years and the customers all are happy. These people know those customers. They see them day in and day out. If you're in a small business, your customers come in. This is the way Fred likes his steaks, and so you don't even have to say, "Hey, look, Fred, here's your table. Here's your wine. Your steaks will be out in just a few minutes. Is there anything different that you would like about your sides?" And you're not even asking Fred about how he like his steak if he like it different this time. You just know he likes it that way, and he is excited. You know that about him. Until you grow that restaurant chain to 14 or 15 or 16 restaurants across a 200-mile radius in a region, like six communities within a state, and you're traveling around. When you're the owner and you go out and start walking out and shaking your hands and saying, "I'm the owner," you don't know Bishop here or Shelley. You don't know them. You're just introducing yourself. The owner, you would hope the owner knows them, but they don't know them either because they're more concerned about, and these days, they're more concerned about the gross profit and the money and that kind of stuff. And they're focused really on making sure everything is you can serve it at a proportion that delivers a return on investment profit. And you won't discover that about that manager until it's too late, until that restaurant starts losing money or the ratings start going downhill. Because you're not spending any time on your own deciding, well, I'm going to assess this I'm going to assess my restaurants on a regular basis to see what the customers are saying. The customers say you might even have a customer complaint program. Customers don't care about this. They really don't care about those that much. And you think you're doing great with them, but I promise you, your customers don't care about them that much. You've got to come down and really spend time talking with customers at a table or spending some time with employees, understanding how they're feeling about it, because the employees are going to have if you can tell from your employees' attitudes whether customers are going to be happy or not, whether the food's going to be the right way or not. I can see that if I went into a restaurant. I worked in the food industry for a while, and I also consulted in there, and I could see. I remember working for a major chain that had an airline food contract program, and the employees are so frustrated they started just ever so slightly increasing the salt in certain food products, and the customers on the flights started complaining about the food, and they were saying, "Well, we got the recipe. Here's the recipe. We're doing the recipe." Well, no, they weren't. The employees had just kind of decided that they had to figure out a way to get some attention, to get some of this management out of their hair. That were driving them nuts, and they were losing jobs everywhere, and people were leaving right and left, and that left other people really stressed, and there was a whole dynamic going on there. And so the ones that were fairly dedicated to the company and were frustrated felt like they actually got together and put a plan together to salt the food and do things to the food that would make not it wasn't dangerous, but it was not good. The food was not good. It was not to the standard that these people expected of the catering service that they were providing before. It's a fairly prominent food company. And sure enough, I got a contract to go in, and so I made a few flights, just back and forth to the company for one thing, and then a couple of other places to talk to employees and things. And I took these flights where I knew these meals were being catered, and I could tell the food was bad. I knew what they were doing. Because the employees were telling me. And so I figured out, well, I have to get enough of the customer's reaction to. So on flights and stuff, I began to ask customers, does this stuff taste right to you? And they go, oh man, this is awful. I never had this. It used to be great. I don't know what's happened. And so I got enough information from the employees, from the customers, and everybody, go back to management and say, well, here's what's happening. Well, management was just, what? You're kidding me. They're doing what? I'll fire them on. I said, well, the question you need to be asking is, why are they doing this? Well, what do you mean? They shouldn't do this. I said, well, ask that question. Let's take some time. I want you to relax and calm down, and we're going to ask the questions. And we're not going to punish them for giving us the answers that you don't want to hear necessarily. We walked through that discussion to a point to where it made sense for them to ask. When they did, they got the answers straight out from the employees. And the first thing that happened is they said, fine, we're not mad at you and we're not going to fire any of you, but we need to change this. It changed overnight. The next few flights out, that food was fantastic. Okay, so they were back to where they needed to be. But that's what happens with senior management when they reach a certain level and they get to a certain scaled area. They forget about the operation side. They have turned this over to people, and they're assuming, because they're turning it over, that they'll take the responsibility for it, and that they believe that I want you to take responsibility and do a good job. But the communication doesn't come across that way in terms of how it's communicated. That's the problem with the nonverbal. And this is what I discovered outright in the beginning. For years and years, I was looking back and for years after that event, I realized it wasn't so much that the people didn't know what to do, or they didn't want to do it, or they were just mad, or things like that. A lot of times it was leaders did not have the right communication tools to use when talking with their employees about certain leadership skills areas, like conflict management, or like performance management. You have one set of communication skills that are best used if you're doing performance management. You have another set that are best used if you're doing team building. You have another approach from a communication perspective If you're working with, I don't know, development, training and development, or diversity within groups and things like that. So that's where I found out, and that's why I started down this path of interpersonal communication being so critical. And then I began to ask a lot of people. I said, "Oh, what? Did you not get this training? I mean, anywhere did you get training about how to communicate with other people? What's going on when two people communicate with each other? You know, what are the things that get in the way that screw all that up?" Nope, never had any of that. Not in high school. Nope, not in college. Well, there's this course over there called communication, but everybody took that because it was the easy out. We didn't get anything like that in business. I said, how about the consulting firms that were consulting with you all these years? Did they teach this? No, no, nothing like this, nothing like you're talking about. And I said, well, how about the company? Does the company HR or training group present this, or any of their professional groups like Society Human Resource Manager or Training Development? Nope, I haven't never had any of it. Did you learn it from your parents? If I ask you a question like, the meaning of every message that you send somebody, the meaning of that message resides in that receiver of that message mind. And if I ask you, what does that mean? Have you ever had anything that talked about why that's important? Why you might want to know a little bit about when people, who people are, how they're coming from, what their variances and differences are that might get in the way of them listening to you and believing you? Did you ever know that people are more concerned about how you say it than what you say? Did anybody ever? No, nobody ever could. Did you learn that from your parents or anybody? No. Well, that's probably true because their parents never had it. I've discovered we don't teach it. We don't teach communication in school. And so you can talk and you can hear since you were 2 years old. And that's how you learned what you think is communication. But out of all these employees that I spent years assessing, 15, 20, 30, well, 35 years with leadership and everything, 45 years, I guess, really, with leadership and consulting and everything all combined, I did a lot of assessing. I took a lot of tools and assessed them for team building, for leadership, and communication. And I would gather that information, and to make sure I had the right information, I would ask employees, so tell me about this, tell me about that. And I would compare what the employees were saying against the surveys that were taken, because those were all anonymous, done by a group outside the company. Nobody could be singled out. So I think that pretty honest information. So about 95% of the time, what employees told me in the follow-up interviews coincided with what the survey. So I was pretty sure I had the right data, and that was the purpose of doing that exercise. But I asked one question in that that I picked up from one of my people I used to work for as a consultant, and he always had a good question. I've used it ever since, and that was, what is the one thing you would like your leader to do better? And I swear, I mean, just, I kept the notes for years, but I never just ever took them and put them in just thinking I would ever have to use it for anything. But well over 70 or 80% of those employees, in one form or the other, said communication. Now, most of the time they said communication outright. But when you started asking questions, well, what do you mean by communication? It was like, well, I don't ever see my boss, or when he tells me something, I don't know. It just feels like it's not, you know, what he's saying just doesn't jive with what I think he really means. So there was the nonverbal, verbal incongruity, which meant the message wasn't coming across clearly, or the boss just never saw them. So he never had a chance to get any feedback from them to see if what he told them they really understood, or if they had any questions about, or they presented them in different ways. Later in life, back in the 80s and 90s, when computers came in, everybody started doing things through email and text messaging because they didn't have to go in and talk with employees. It was easier to do tough things just by writing a note saying, you need to clean up your act, and I expect this to be better in the next 6 months here. And he lay it on the desk and send it by email, and the employee's sitting there just going crazy. Doesn't understand, as far as he knew, he was doing great. So the feedback wasn't there. All these were communication issues. The employees knew the subjects. They were unclear about the expectations. The leaders knew the subjects. They weren't clear about expressing what they wanted. And they weren't talking to each other. All these barriers were getting in the way of the messages coming across clearly and concisely. And that I began to pick that up in so many organizations that had toxic cultures. It was just absolutely amazing. It just stood out like a bright, shining light. So that's why I picked up this idea that I think a lot of people just really have never had enough communication education to help them be able to apply some skills that they're really pretty good at. They just could not communicate those skills effectively. And it was really I had my dissertation all written out and the statistics done on it and the paper written and everything. I never presented it, but I didn't get a chance to. But it was more of a timing thing than anything with the university and me traveling. But it was on the transference of knowledge between courses that people go to, and when they get back to the company, their ability to put them into effect and change behavior in the company. And I took that subject because I realized that so many people go away and now have to get a leadership course on feedback, but when they come back and try to apply it, it doesn't work. And there are a multitude of things that are engaged in why that's happening. It's not just one thing. And I had that all written out and researched out and had some success in applying some of this out in the field, because while I was writing and I was working on it, I was using it. I was saying, okay, we need to spend, like, for example, we need to spend more time helping this person understand how to interface with this person here, because they don't know how to do that. And that was a surprise to most of the executives. But when I asked them about the same question, how much education have you had in this? And how much help have you had and feedback have you had on your communication? If we asked that of all your employees now, what would they say? They hadn't had any. They hadn't had any. It's not a normal thing you ask people. You ask your children, how am I doing? Am I getting through to you guys? Do I do that okay, or does that bother you? You don't do that with children. Most people don't anyway. Maybe you should. Maybe you should. It would be interesting to see, particularly for those who are, when they're probably 4, 5, and 6, they're going to tell you the truth, and you're going to just Shocked by it. But, if you're talking about a teenager, you might be surprised. They may be hesitant, like, is this a trick question? Or why are you asking me this? And if you get that kind of response, that means you have not been connecting with your child like you should have been. And I wasn't either when I was doing that. It was after I got out here in the field, I realized, wow, there's a difference. So I actually started going back and making sure I sit down at the kitchen table, and every now and then would ask my children, how are things going? Have I been spending? And I was surprised at the couple of times that I did that when I came back. Might be too late because they were deep into their teenage years and already had been impacted. But I wished I would have known that early on, is what I'm saying. That's why I'm encouraging people to consider this process for high school students. It's something that I think if we started in high school, I just can't help but believe if some of the stuff that I'm teaching or trying to present to people today, that people aren't even wanting to deal with it today. They're not wanting to purchase it. They don't think they need it today even. It's stuff you have to get into an organization, get the assessment data, go lay it on the desk, and then they can't run away from it. And that takes a lot of money and time to do, and they don't ever want to allow you to do that. So it's tough to sell, but it is real. In nearly every organization I was in, and over tens of thousands of employees I spent time asking that question to. So I have to know that all of those other people that were in this organization were unaware of the problem, and probably still are today, unless someone like myself comes in there and actually addresses this issue, because there are consulting companies that don't go into it the way they should. So that's what led me to writing the book. I think it's should be right back here. Nope, over here. There, Renaissance Leadership Odyssey. That book is about changing the role of leadership, the paradigm, the whole paradigm. That means we have to take a look at the whole dynamic and how we use leaders in organizations, as opposed to just saying, well, we're going to flatten the organization. Get rid of the middle management. They're really not doing much for us. You're not even asking why. Well, first of all, they tried that in the 1990s. It's going to be interesting to see if Amazon can do it. In the 1990s, they tried that, and the assumption was employees were excited about more responsibility, not having a boss telling them what to do. Well, no, not unless you're going to give them more money. They weren't prepared to give them more money in the 90s. So that thing fell flat on its face. Every organization that's out there today is a hierarchically structured organization. Every one of them says we need to get rid of, everybody at the top says we need to get rid of middle management. The bottom is looking at that going, what the hell's the alternative? Wait a minute. Are you expecting me to do what they do for the money you're paying me? That's the employee's point of view. And the middle management's going, what the hell did I do? What did I do wrong? That's exactly what happened in the 1990s. It fell flat on its face. Today, we still have those hierarchical structures. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think you can get, this isn't about robots or anything along those lines for efficiency or effectiveness. People will figure out how to work around that so they can either make that fail, kind of like the in-flight service group. You piss those employees off enough, they're going to figure out how to make it fail for you. And then when it fails, the leaders at the top are going to take the hit for it. Or not the leaders at the very top, but the ones that were supporting it. And you are not going to know about it until you get a kickback from your customers or from the employees, or you just happen to recognize your company's going to hell in a handbag. That's how you'll find out, because you're probably not assessing on a regular basis effectively enough. And I mean assessing effectively enough and doing work in that area. You may pass out a survey and say, oh, look, employee said I was doing great on the survey. That's not telling you crap, but you got to get down in the ranks and spend some time with those employees to really get them to feel comfortable enough to tell you the truth. Okay, that's one of the things that was valuable about all the people that I worked with as consultants on those teams I worked on. All of those people were down amongst the workforce, and we were going back, and we had to figure out how to tell senior management what they were feeling without senior management getting pissed off about it and wanting to take repercussions against the people. Our job, we had to figure out how to make that connection, and we did a pretty good job of it. The folks that were around the teams that I were on did a pretty good job of doing that, but they weren't going to do it they weren't going to get it on their own, because they had already created that culture that made it difficult for that to happen. Now this is a long way of going around saying, look at what's going on in our country today. And a lot of things I'm telling you about are things that we, the people, have not been telling. We have not been telling our people to represent us. We have not told them what we needed them to do and then held them accountable for it. And it's one of the things from a democracy standpoint, like when you do a town hall and 6 people start bitching and your representative walks out on you, that's not where you want to be on a communication perspective. We need to take town halls and turn them into educational experiences and then high performance team concepts, so that when they go to elect somebody, they know what they're looking for and they want, and they all agree on what they want. So they vote for that as a block, a district, so to speak. And then they get together and lay out for that representative what they need, not what the representative thinks they need to do based on what happens in Congress up there. What they need. Here's the list. Prioritize. We expect you to pass bills or fight for bills against these things. And by the way, send us some communication telling you how it's going. If you need some help, we'll come up there and meet with you and all those other people you meet with and say why we need that. If we had that kind of thing going, we might find out that all of those districts out there that hold those sessions and prioritize everything, when those lists came together in Washington, we might find that there's probably 4 or 5 things that everybody in America said was important. And those are the 4 or 5 things that every one of those people ought to get together and start talking about how to make that work so that their people could get that in their districts together. That's called collaborative conflict resolution, not compromise. Not compromise is a bunch of bullshit. Compromise is a lose-lose battle if you think about it. Everybody loses. Both sides lose. And they think they have to lose it to get ahead because they don't want to take the time and they don't have the skill to put their minds together and come up with something collaboratively that is better than what either one of those people offered. It's because they don't think they have to behave as a team. They don't see themselves as a team. They see themselves as one person representing one district. And by the way, they've turned from being representative of the people to how much money can I get. So they're even like worse than executives and companies. So this is what's going on. And when the people begin to come together, and there are people who can help them do that, people like myself in every district, if you can get people together, 150 or 200 people in the district, sit down, talk about what, and let your consultant guide you through the process of identifying who you are and what you need as a district. I don't care what your party is. Base it on needs, not party. Base it on needs. What the needs are. You're going to find the key needs are pretty consistent across America, I think. So then you send that back. So then when somebody comes and sits down with you in a town hall, they're not telling you what they're going to do. You are asking them questions about what they have done that you told them to do and that you need, that you voted for them to do. So, and then after they give you the report about what they've done, you guys can talk about what was wrong, what was right, and what we need to do to support them to go get it in the next round of congressional sessions. And then if the first thing you should vote on is every congressperson that doesn't come back with a positive report after 6 or 8 weeks of 10 weeks of congressional work, if they're not delivering what you ask, then you can put together a recall vote, take them out, and put somebody else in there who will do it. Don't let somebody stay in the job for 2 years and not do anything. There are people out there who have not done anything for you. And you let them stay there for 2 years. Well, you don't let them. The law says that. So that's the first law you pass. We can fire you if you don't do your job. Every district should have that right. So these are things that can be done. It's a change in paradigm. It's the people telling the representatives what's going to get done, what they expect to get done. In other words, you are the boss. You are the boss. And they are, but on the other side, they are actually more like consultants for you. They have the skill set to do it better than you can do it, or at least we thought. Hopefully they did. That's why you elect them. They have that skill set to go do these things you need them to go do for you. Okay? So when you're deciding who to vote for primaries this year, and if you happen to see this video that's gone on this long and you've taken the time to watch it and listen, and here in the end, you're going to get a big bonus piece. Here's your bonus piece. Get your district together. Hold team sessions. Make sure you have both Democrats, Independents, and Republicans at each table. And have each table define what the top 5 areas you need help doing. You need to have done for this district you live in to meet the needs that you have. Okay? Not what your representatives now want, not what your state representatives want. Well, you're going to do this for all your representatives, by the way, not just the federal. But you put that together, okay? And then you make sure your state and your federal representatives get that list. And the criteria, you're going to also define what success looks like in terms of what you're asking them to do. So it would be a bill that gets you this and this and this to spend on doing this and this, and the action begins here and here, and it's progressing like it's supposed to. Okay? And And if they're not doing it, you want to be able to fire them and put somebody in there who will do it for you. Okay? So you're not going to get that if people are opting to compromise. Compromise is not something you have to do. That's something you choose to do. If you're compromising, it's your choice. You can also choose to be good and capable at arriving at a better, higher quality product through collaboration and what we call synergy. And I know people go, oh, that's a soft skill. That's bullshit. That is reality. I saw energy save millions of dollars for companies that they didn't want to do. They struggled, they resisted, and they fought. But once they understood it, once they grasped it, once it was capable, it saved companies millions of dollars. Millions, maybe even billions if you take it across all the companies. And they didn't want to do it in the beginning. It's not easy to do. There's a skill set you have to learn. You have to learn when to give up what you don't do well and turn it over to somebody on your team that does well in that area. But the team as a whole wins. And the solution is always, nearly always better than what any one of those individuals started going in with. And we say that time after time again, and people keep going, no, that's a bunch of crap. And it's because they have yet to figure out the skill set to be able to do it effectively. But once they're taught, once they understand, once they break through those barriers, got it, they love it. It's like a wild machine going crazy. They enjoy it. It happens. They're proud of it. The energy behind putting it to work is amazing. But they haven't had the skill or the interpersonal communication skills to be able to do it. They want to do it. They want to do something quick. It's like, I'm going to write down 10 things here, and we're only going to spend 15 minutes in this meeting. Well, what if it's a complicated problem? Huh? What if it's a really significantly complicated problem? Are you going to get it done in 15 minutes? Really? It's one of the things I have about social media. They keep reducing the time that people spend talking about things. And the reality is, I'd rather you talk about fewer things that mean more to us and spend more time doing them right than doing a whole bunch of things fast that really aren't delivering anything that helps people all that much. They may make a few people a lot of money, but they help people. It's like, I see these commercials on YouTube. Yeah, if you don't do this, in 1 week, and 1 hour, and 1 day you'll be this, in 3 days you'll be that. In 1 week you're going to be a miracle. That's bullshit. It is absolutely pure bullshit. The vast majority of people will never reach that skill because they're uncomfortable in trying to start it with, particularly in that short a period of time. And everybody, now, if you could do that with somebody, you're one person who might get 3 people to do that, or 10, or 15, or 20. But you're not going to get a whole district or a whole country to move that fast. It frustrates me to see these things, and I know they're not real. I know what's happening is once you click that thing and you look at this, the next thing is send me $10, and you're not doing. They haven't done one damn thing for you to get the $10 yet. I'm going. Send me the paper. Let me work this out for 3 weeks, and I'll send you the $10 if it works out. If it doesn't, then how about that? It's always money back guaranteed, because they figure For $10, people aren't going to worry about asking for it back. Folks ask for it back every time if it doesn't do it in 30 days or 1 week, or if you don't feel like a new man in 3 days. If you do Tai Chi or some other chair exercise. By the way, all the exercises on the Tai Chi seem to be the same one I saw in a chair program about 7 months ago, 8 months ago. And they aim these at senior citizens who may be struggling with differentiating things. That bothers me too. That's just downright wrong. So, but all I'm saying to you is the communication here is critical in reaching it, and it begins with you and your ability to communicate your message clearly and make sure that people understand what you need them to do for you. Okay, whether you're talking to your employees, whether you're talking to your boss, whether you're talking to your spouse, your children, your extended family, church members, whoever you're talking to, these principles are consistently needed to become more effective at what you would like people to do, or at least to hear and consider. Maybe you don't have to convince them to do it. Maybe they're pretty much into it too, but at least be able to hear it clearly and concisely and correctly, and in a way that they want to hear what you have to say. That's a skill set I'm seeing is missing in a lot of situations, in a lot of areas. Damn sure missing. I just watch a committee hearing, and I don't know if there is any committee hearing I've seen lately that even remotely. I think if I were consulting with them, I probably would get in trouble because I would stand up and say, let's stop. You guys are just getting nowhere. No, either side. I don't care. I don't care who you are. This isn't getting anything done. Go back to your offices and start thinking about how you can get something done. Okay, just get one thing done. I don't care. You don't have to hit all 20 of these things. Just get one thing done, okay? And get it done right. Go away. Go take care of that. I'd probably be arrested and handcuffed and taken off for disrupting the Congress, but that's exactly what I would do. I'm sitting here watching these on TV. I'm going, I want to get in and say, stop. You're doing nothing. You are accomplishing nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I can imagine what the private hearing meetings are like. We need a lot of this understanding how to make the connection more effectively. Well, I was hoping somebody would join me on YouTube. I guess I'm still live on YouTube. Let me check and see. I don't know here. Oops. Yeah, I'm still live. I've talked an hour and 8 minutes according to this. Wow. Well, I guess I need to kind of keep my cursor on that while I'm talking before. I don't know if any of this made sense to you. I tell you what, I'm not going to edit this video. I was just going to throw it away anyway, but I'm going to leave it up. If you've got any comments, I would really love to hear your comments in the comments section about this. I think this is a problem that more people have than, or more leaders have than they think they have. Let me put it that way. And the question is this something a problem you have with your boss? Is this a problem you have with your representatives? It's one I have with the ones I deal with. I'm yet to figure out what's going on. And certainly at the state level, it's really a combobulated mess. Um, so it's time for people to. We, we have suffered enough as Americans. It's time for our government to get their crap together and move forward. Uh, but most definitely, I would be very interested to know this. These are things that I believe should be a mandatory program for 4 years running. There's enough education areas in this interpersonal communication program. I'm telling you, there's enough concepts to have, starting in freshman year of high school, mandatory classes in interpersonal communication that will teach someone to be a highly effective person when they graduate high school at communicating with other people. And I mean interfacing, connecting with them, and being able to resolve problems and motivate people and be clear and concise about their messages and understand what feedback was, to be able to be empathetic and compassionate with people. All these are things that are taught in this area. And I would love to get this into the high school program because it wasn't in my high school program. I mean, I learned these in college, but I learned more from the people I consulted with than I learned from the professors in college on this area. The professors presided the theory, and I understood the theory. But man, when you get down in the heat of it and really apply it and start working it, you really begin to see how valuable that is. I don't want to slight the professors. I think they definitely need to be in there doing the research and the work. But we don't take this down into the ranks to where it really makes a difference. If we started with high school students, I can imagine how much better their chances are coming out of high school, either going into the work world or going into college, being more effective. And then I think there is some more advanced courses in those areas that college students ought to take, because you can use them in the sciences, you can use them in the business world, you can use them in the liberal arts communities. They apply everywhere. So it's like there should be, at least in your freshman, sophomore years for sure, a series of core courses that your communication department definitely could put together for you and flash and apply these things. And they should be mandatory courses in every subject out there, because when you get out into the real world, you have to do something, and you're going to be talking. And it took me to the axiom that that drives me in doing this education and working with people, and that is, if there's more than one person involved, everything begins and everything ends with interpersonal communication. Everything. The better you are at it, the more effective you're going to be, the better the world is going to be. The other axiom is the one I mentioned to you earlier. The meaning of the message is always in the mind of the receiver. If you want somebody to do what you ask them to do, keep that in mind and make sure you understand what the barriers are that can keep that from happening. Okay? All right. Allergies are beginning to get me here. I have a rough time with them. I live in Oklahoma, so there's a lot of wind and nothing to stop the allergies from blowing around down here in the plains area. So they get to be pretty radical. Seriously, please look at the video, please watch it through. Maybe go through it a couple times. There's some serious good quality information here that you can input and comment on that I think can be helpful to people. And these books you see behind you are on sale at victorvogel.com. Okay, it's not hard. VICTORVOGEL.com. And they're all there. They're fairly inexpensive. They're all ebooks, easy to read. The reason I wrote them in ebooks is I like textbooks that you don't have to go look and get another book off the shelf. Okay, and so what happens here is you're going to be going through things. You're going to see a link, and you can stop right there and go look at that link and go into that subject and learn a little more about it, because as you continue to work through the rest of that chapter, that's knowing that subject a little better is going to make it even more meaningful for you to understand that chapter. And then I have workbooks that are free that go with some of these books, and they help you actually go out and start practicing this stuff, because reading it will not teach you how to do it. You can't read a book, put it on the shelf like back behind my book there, and you can't put it on the shelf and expect to go do it. There is practice. The same way there is practice in learning a skill for golfing or shooting a three-point foul shot perfectly or making that perfect stick on gymnastics. It's practice, it's practice, it's practice. The same thing with communication. You have to go out and observe people. I tell people to get your book, read, get the notes down, the key points down, make sure you see them, make sure you understand them. Watch a TV show. The one I've been watching is called Landman with Billy Bob Thornton, because I know a landman. And I'm thinking, wow, there's some not real correlation here, but pretty close. But there's a lot of emotion. There more than action. There is interface and conflict and argument and resolution and a lot of emotion involved in that series that would go well with you being able to look at these topic areas and watch how that was handled. Say, I think, well, did it get resolved? No, it didn't get resolved. Was it because of this or this? So that's how you learn this stuff. You observe it. You watch it happening. That's a safe way to do it, so you don't make a mistake with your employees or whatever. I learned that from a professor at Oklahoma University who used to do his team building was watching movies. We watched movies and then got together in groups and did work on the movie. And it's an excellent way to learn in a safe environment. Because primarily scripts are written on behavior, and the behavior comes from their history and their learning, their experience. So there's not much difference between real life and a lot of these scripts. They get exaggerated, yes, but even the exaggerations are beneficial because they point something out a little easier. These books they're short. They're like 80, 90, 100 pages, but they're packed full of information, and they have the tools to help you go practice and become actually proficient at changing behavior. It comes out of that thesis. That's one of the things I was going to do based on my thesis, is I was going to put this kind of stuff together. The knowledge base, the capability to go practice it, the processes in the workbook that provide you the interface and the activities that get your mind thinking. And now from neuroscience, I know that was on the right track. Neuroscience was telling us that the more you process something, then your neuroplasticity builds up, the more likely you are to seed it and remember it and grow it and do it properly. Again, the books are on sale. They're fairly inexpensive. I don't know. I just put them there. If you go to Substack, and my Substack can become a paid Substack, I'm teaching a lot of this stuff on Substack on a weekly newsletter, and then I do a Thursday evening tutorial on the newsletter to kind of flesh it out a little more, like I'm doing here, and then I answer any questions people have, and you can get a hold of me and we can talk about it and to kind of seeds in your mind correctly. Sometimes you have to talk back and forth and get some dialogue going to really get a handle on that. We can do that through video conferencing. I don't charge for that if you're a paid subscriber. One hell of a deal considering what I used to get to do that. It wasn't $8 by a long shot. But I'm just trying to get this stuff started because I think I see what's going on in our country. I'm going, can anybody else not see what's, does anybody just go in and say, just stop this? If I saw this conflict going on in a business or anywhere like that, I'd stop it and we would go resolve it. We would start the resolution process. You can't just let it go on and on and on. And podcasters, I understand that you're providing the essence of it, but some of this fuels this continual push to keep pushing. That's not resolving the issue. You're not resolving conflict when you do that. You're creating a battle, and the battle is not going to resolve it. Well, it will resolve it, but it may not resolve it like you'd like it. Or it may resolve it with a lot of casualties in the interim. So we need some of the podcasters to begin to encourage. I like for them to just read. Well, just go look at last week's, last week's, yeah. Go look at last week's Substack I have out there, and it was on poor conflict resolution is a pain point. One of the 10 pain points that leaders say is, in their top 10 pain points they have to deal with is poor conflict resolution. Okay, so go read some key points of that. Watch that. Pay attention to this video. Share this video with some of your podcasters, and understand. You guys have a megaphone. You can play a big role at taking a different approach, not a fight. I know fights sell likes and stuff like that. They're not resolution based. That's not a resolution-based approach. And I know we got a tough guy to deal with there with Donald Trump and his whole gang. But these other people that are on the border edge that may, you kind of need to, everybody keeps telling me, we've got a bunch of people that tell me this in private, but they won't say it in public. I got to get in there and find out what's going on with those guys. Why? What is it really that they're going to lose their job and then they'll be like other people who lost their jobs? Or what's the deal? I like to understand the whyness of all that from all of those congressional people. So if you're a congressperson and you're watching this, we can do a private session. Call me. Let's schedule a private session. I want to hear what your problem is, why you can't come out. What is it you feel you're protecting? Okay? And maybe you are. Maybe you're trying to protect the rich people of the world because you feel that's where your pocket's going to be lying. That's okay. If I know that, I at least know where you're coming from. But if it's something else, if it's something deeper than that, we got to get to that core because we don't have a lot of time to discover the reality of the issues. we know what the reality of what's happened is. It's a mess, and it's dangerous, and it's awful, and it's unimaginable. I need to know those congressmen who are the ones that are back talking to your buddies on the Democratic side and other Republicans saying, well, yeah, I mean, I can see that you're looking at what's going on with Marjorie Taylor Greene and realizing, wow, I don't want that to happen to me. I understand that. But guess what? She's still alive. She's still uh, presenting an image. It's a different image, which tells me maybe people can change in the world. Wow, wouldn't that be great? We don't have to brand them, if you will, like cattle in Oklahoma and Texas. We brand you, and you're going to be branded that way the rest of your life. Nah, it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't have to be. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out here. Okay, so if you're one of those people, I really, really would love talking with you. I mean, you can reach me. I'll leave all the ways to reach me here. If you're a congressperson, a senator, a congressman, a staffer who's just really struggling with all that, give me a call. I really want to walk you through the process of us trying to figure out how we get your message out so it's clear to everybody else how people really are feeling. Because when you keep it subdued out of fear, that's making things worse for you in the end. Okay, you have a good one.